Now, the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Garrity.
And welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch, along with Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. We have bad, maybe good, and crazy martinis for conservatives today. All of it brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Stop spending a fortune on gimmicky shave tech that you don't need. Make the smarter choice by joining Dollar Shave Club. Get your first month for only $5 with free shipping by going to dollarshaveclub.com/martini. More on the good folks and the good products at Dollar Shave Club in just a moment. Jim, you might have noticed at the top that we're doing a slightly different order. We're going bad, maybe good, and crazy. It was just Monday we were talking about this meeting that Donald Trump Jr. had along with Paul Manafort and Jared Kushner with this woman who was a Russian attorney, may or may not have had ties to the Kremlin. And we talked about how it was really stupid, probably not criminal, but CNN would still assemble 12-member panels, which, of course, they have done along with others. But Donald Trump Jr. hasn't helped himself a lot because he released an email chain yesterday, which he described, as well as his father, the president, as transparency. However, when his acquaintance alerted him to the fact that this person was representing the Russian government and had dirt on Hillary Clinton, he said, "I love it." So, of course, that's now the bombshell. CNN gets paid a lot, apparently, every time the word bombshell is at the bottom of the screen. It's also the smoking gun, depending on who you talk to. So, Jim, before we get to Donald Trump Jr. and his appearance on Sean Hannity's program on Fox News last night, let's take a look at the divergence of opinion here on whether or not this amounts to treason. First of all, you have Raju Manu of CNN talking to last year's vice presidential nominee for the Democrats, Tim Kaine, still a senator from Virginia, where he totally doesn't put the word treason in Tim Kaine's mouth. But Tim Kaine says that this could be treason.
Now, we just caught up with the former vice presidential nominee on the Democratic side, Tim Kaine, who says this may have shifted the view, not just to the issue of possible obstruction, possible collusion, but also possible treason. Those are his words coming from the former vice presidential candidate. This is what he said.
Do you think this is treason?
That the investigation, it's not. Nothing is proven yet, but we're now beyond obstruction of justice in terms of what's being investigated. This is moving into perjury, false statements, and even into potentially treason.
Is this treason? Well, it might be treason. Wow, he said treason. That was his word. Here's Jonathan Turley over on the Fox News channel with Martha McCallum last night.
Some people have said this could be treason. For the love of God, treason is defined in the Constitution. This is not treason. Other people have said this could be a Logan Act violation. Well, Logan Act has been used once in 200 years and is facially unconstitutional. One said, well, if you take things of tangible value under the campaign laws and treat information like that, then maybe you have a campaign contribution violation. Well, yeah, but we haven't seen that done. You could also treat it like a panda and say it's an endangered species violation.
So then Donald Trump Jr. appears on Hannity. And let's just say, Jim, this is not the most convincing performance of all time. First of all, he talks about what he thought this meeting would be about when he first got the email.
This is pre-Russia mania. You know, this is 13 months ago, before I think the rest of the world was talking about that, trying to build up this narrative about Russia. So I don't even think my sirens, went up, or the antennas went up at this time because of it, because it wasn't the issue that it's been made out to be over the last, 9 months, 10 months, since it really became a thing. So I think there is an element of context to that.
So the fact that somebody supposedly representing a foreign government was trying to give you dirt, that didn't raise any sirens. Apparently he did no research before the meeting either.
An acquaintance, sent me this email as a courtesy to him. I said, okay, let's meet. But I didn't know who I was meeting beforehand, never heard of the person, never got the information until they were in the room.
And apparently what he's most upset about, Jim, is that there wasn't actual dirt from this Russian.
Okay, the meeting was described earlier today on the Today Show. Did she describe it accurately?
I think fairly accurately. I mean, I was a little taken back by her saying, talking about me pressing for the information. But as you can see from the emails, the pretext of the meeting was, hey, we have information. And there was, some small talk. I don't even remember what it was. It just was sort of nonsensical, inane and garbled, and then quickly went on to, a story about Russian adoption and how we could possibly help. And really, that's where we shut it down, which is, wait a second, what does this have to do with
Did you even know what the...
So he was upset that it got off topic. So, Jim, the Russian lawyer involved said she was not representing the Kremlin. Who knows if we can believe that? Obviously, there was no collusive relationship going forward after this meeting. So at the very least, it's colossally stupid. At worst, it looks like he might have had some interest in engaging in some illegal behavior if, in fact, there had been actual information there.
Yeah, three things, a lot of stuff to unpack there, Greg. The first thing, when you mentioned that little bit of audio we played from Tim Kaine, he mentioned perjury. What's the alleged perjury here?
I don't know.
Has anybody testified under oath? I mean, it's conceivably possible that Director Mueller has convened a grand jury and asked people. But if so, we haven't heard of that. That would be exceptionally secret. We have not heard about Donald Trump Jr. being asked to testify. Has Donald Trump Jr. testified before the committees? I don't believe so. Has anybody in the Trump White House inner circle? Has Jared Kushner? Has Paul Manafort testified before any Senate committee or grand jury? As far as I know, no. So where's he getting perjury from? Interesting. Just file that out there. So we're just throwing out crimes. Now, in that defense, when Jonathan Turley said this could be an Endangered Species Act violation, just breaking over Twitter as we're taping this, Greg, it's just, I don't know if you've seen this, it came out. Donald Trump Jr. admitted he did meet with a panda during the campaign. The panda said he had ties going back to China and the 1996 Clinton campaign. It turned out to be nothing. No, I'm exaggerating, but yeah, let's face it. Yes, treason, perjury, a lot of words are getting thrown around here that don't really fit based on what we know so far. Look, based on what we learned yesterday, I think everyone should be a little circumspect about what's going to come out, what's not going to come out. For a long time, folks like myself have said, okay, this collusion talk has been so hot and heavy. Where's the evidence? From this, we can conclude that Donald Trump Jr. was at the very least very interested in collusion, very eager to it. You could never say Donald Trump Jr. cannot plausibly say, oh, I would never do something like that. Because it's pretty clear right there in that email when he says the offer was of, quote, some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia. That is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but I'm speaking verbally, but I want you to picture this being underlined or highlighted in his mind. Part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump. Now, in response to this, I'd like to think most clear-thinking people would go, ruh-roh. That would feel a little under. Why is the Russian government trying to help us? Do we really want the Russian government's help? Is this a trap? Is this something we should be wary of? Is this something that could blow up in our faces? Is this something that is the FSB trying to trap us? Why is Russia so eager to help us? At one point during that interview with Hannity, Donald Trump Jr. says, I quote, I never got information, unquote, about who he was speaking with. Well, it's right there in the email that this is information. So I mean, either he's saying I took the meeting without really reading the email about who this person was and what they were offering, which again, it just kind of underlines our point from earlier this week. Just how many meetings were they taking at Trump Tower? Just what did you have to do to get these kind of sit-down meetings with not one, not two, but three of the highest level people in the Trump campaign? As I described this earlier today, this is not necessarily a crime. I'm not familiar with the legal code. Treason sounds really implausible. As far as we know, no one's committed perjury. There was nothing of value transmitted to the campaign, at least according to these accounts, because there was no useful information. It's really not clear that you can, as Turley says, you can treat information as a in-kind donation, because if that was the case, anybody, whoever reached out to a campaign and said, hey, I heard something about your opponent, qualifies as an in-kind donation and violating campaign finance law. So it's kind of plausible. What we can point to is this is really terrible judgment on Donald Trump Jr.'s part. And you could say, well, the good news is he's not officially in the administration. On the other hand, he's pretty clearly still connected to his father and certainly seems to be a liability going forward. So this isn't what the Democrats are freaking out and screaming their heads off about. It's not nothing either. And it points to a really unnerving eagerness to hear what the Russian government had on Hillary, which is effectively a glaring and unnerving lack of wariness about getting in bed with the FSB and Vladimir Putin.
All right, let's move on to the possibly good one. This is from NBC. Facing the prospect of leaving Washington for a month-long recess without any substantial legislative achievements, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell Tuesday announced he is delaying the start of the traditional August recess this year by 2 weeks. McConnell's decision comes after members of his own party asked him to delay the 5-week-long break from Washington as a long list of GOP priorities pile up, including a stalled health care bill, even as new details emerged about a revised health care plan. The revised break will mark the first time since 1994 that the Senate has postponed its August break. So, Jim, obviously on the plus side, it's fairly good PR. If you're actually making progress towards a bill that will improve the situation, that's a good thing. But if we're just rearranging the deck chairs and adding some bonus time like they do at the end of soccer games after players flop all over the place and pretend they're injured, and we still don't end up with anything good out of this, the Republicans are going to look even dumber.
Yeah, look, this is a big to-do list, and they've I'd be happy if they got half of it done. We know how the enormous difficulty they have with Obamacare repeal and replace. Now all of a sudden there's these murmurs. We're just going to repeal. We're not going to replace. We'll hold the replacement later. Good luck. We'll see how that works out. Obviously, people are saying hoping tax cuts get done by the end of the year. I remember hearing that was going to be done in spring. Obviously, infrastructure bill is going nowhere. If they just got the debt ceiling raised and a whole bunch of the nominees confirmed, I'd feel that was pretty good. If they had a plan on Obamacare repeal, that would be really good too. The things are stacking up. It's very frustrated. I realize that McConnell does not have a particularly big majority. He can only afford to lose 2 people in these sorts of things, particularly because Democrats are voting in lockstep. But all in all, look, guys, there is this narrative that is not just out there. It's kind of solidifying that the Republicans have been given control of the White House, the Senate, and the House, and they're not getting stuff done. And while there's some, I read about VA reform stuff that should be on National Review soon, they have gotten a few things done, but the big ticket items haven't been done. And the basic stuff like the debt ceiling and nominations, guys, that's just inexcusable. So hopefully this extra 2 weeks will turn out to be productive. If not, you're going to hear even louder complaints that why do we put all that effort into creating a GOP Senate if they can't get anything passed and onto the president's desk?
Well, all right.
Yeah.
Yay, Republicans.
Look, they'll be burning the midnight oil, and they'll have a lot of may look a little scraggly, may look a little overgrown.
So what will they do about that?
Yeah, they need Dollar Shave Club because Dollar Shave Club is the smarter choice. If you subscribe to Dollar Shave Club, you will get a great shave at a great price, conveniently delivered right to your door. It is a no-brainer choice. You no longer have to schlep to the store to buy a cheap disposable razor that will give you a cheap shave. No longer do you need to spend a fortune on razors with gimmicky shaving tech that you just don't need.
Yeah, let's stop the schlepping right in its tracks. As I've mentioned before, I'm a Dollar Shave Club customer. Love it on so many different levels. The price, the convenience. You don't have to remember when you're headed to the grocery store to go get extra blades that cost you way more money than Dollar Shave Club. $1 a blade. I mean, you're not going to beat that, and they're good blades. You get the Dollar Shave Club Executive Razor and the Dr. Carver Shave Butter, and this stuff is fantastic because the blade glides ever so gently and gives me such a smooth shave. I'm not even sure what to call it. It's definitely not shaving cream, but you just put about a dime or a quarter-size little dollop on your hand, and that covers your whole beard, and then it's just smooth as silk to shave. So it's transparent. You can see exactly where you've shaved and where you haven't. It helps to prevent ingrown hairs and fights razor bumps. So now listeners to 3 Martini Lunch can make the smarter choice by joining Dollar Shave Club. For a limited time, new members get their first month of the Executive Razor with a tube of their Dr. Carver Shave Butter for only $5 with free shipping. After that, razors are just a few bucks a month. That's a $15 value for only $5. In your first month's box, you get an awesome weighty handle, a full cassette of 4 cartridges, and a tube of the shave butter. After your first month, replacement cartridges ship automatically at their regular price. There are no hidden fees and no commitments. You can cancel anytime you like, but you can only get this offer exclusively at dollarshaveclub.com/martini. dollarshaveclub.com/martini. As we move to the crazy martini now, Jim, we certainly identify with the Dollar Shave Club crowd, the people looking to save a few bucks, people looking to have a responsible budget, but apparently some other people decide they want other things. Where you and I would probably go get a ham and cheese sandwich for lunch, other people get much, much fancier things, and that's leading to a divided America, Jim. And that's what we're talking about here in our Crazy Martini. This got a lot of attention on social media yesterday. David Brooks, one of the great MSNBC conservatives out there who's always constantly wringing their hands about something the Republicans are doing, has an op-ed in the July 11th edition of the New York Times, How We Are Ruining America. And the general thesis of this is that people who make a lot of money basically end up in little enclaves with other people who made a lot of money, and they pour all these resources into raising their kids. And so people with money live in a completely different world than people without money. And then those worlds ultimately clash in certain ways that are just shocking and humiliating and really, really scary. And Jim, here's the paragraph that's got everybody all up in a twist. Recently, I took a friend with only a high school degree to lunch. Insensitively, I led her into a gourmet sandwich shop. Suddenly, I saw her face freeze up as she was confronted with sandwiches named Padrino and Pomodoro and ingredients like sopressata, cappuccino, and striata baguette. Who knows if I'm saying those right? I quickly asked her if she wanted to go somewhere else, and she anxiously nodded yes, and we ate Mexican. I hope David Brooks recovered from having to eat Mexican. Jim, so it's almost hilarious that the person who is identifying this crisis is also outing himself as the person who's completely out of touch.
Yeah, it is a really unfortunate anecdote that I don't think really proves the point that he's trying to make, or the point that he thinks he's making, because otherwise there's a lot in this column that a lot of folks on the right would applaud. In fact, I think Alla Pundit called it, this is the most populist thing David Brooks has ever written. And it's less tongue-in-cheek than it sounds, because his point is one that's been made by Ross Douthat and a whole bunch of other conservative commentators, Charles Murray, who point out, look, you have these enclaves, New York, D.C., L.A., San Francisco, maybe throw in Seattle and the Pacific Northwest, the Acela Corridor, places in the country that are obviously pretty darn wealthy, generally doing pretty well, and there's very much a class consciousness there. And what's really clear is that you end up in a situation where once you're there, as long as you don't avoid too many mistakes, you're going to end. If you're in that upper class or upper middle class, you're going to stay there, barring some really terrible decisions in your life. In fact, you can make bad decisions, like an early run-in with the cops or police or drinking or something like that, and the consequences won't be too bad. If you are in a middle-class neighborhood, a working-class neighborhood, or a poor neighborhood, then the consequences of any error in judgment that you make as a young person are much more likely to stick with you and much more likely to limit your opportunities going up ahead. There is nothing, D.C. area has some extraordinarily poor neighborhoods with extraordinarily bad schools and some extraordinarily nice neighborhoods with some extraordinarily good schools. You can see it in the property values and how they perfectly align with the school districts. I won't tell you how much I paid for my house, but it was considerably more than I expected because I wanted to be in a very good school district. This is a way that the middle class and upper middle class and the wealthy kind of guarantee that their kids are always going to have a leg up, always going to have a little bit of an advantage. This is a really valid point that David Brooks is making here, trying to ask ourselves, hey, do we really have a society that gives the maximum amount of opportunities to everybody? If we talk about helping the poor, if we talk about helping people rise, live the American dream, all these things that we want to believe about ourselves, don't we have to take a hard look at it? And he's doing great. And then all of a sudden it comes down to the idea that it's all must be because of her mere high school education that she's not familiar with Pomodoro or Cappuccino or by the way, I think it was somebody noted that striata baguette is like 2 words for bread. So it's basically like a bread. Like you'd have a striata or you'd have a baguette. Striata, I believe, is Italian. Baguette is French. So this is like just, picture David Brooks with a giant ladle, just dolloping on as much elitism as possible, as much pretentiousness as possible. So there we are. This is it's a really unfortunate. People blew up about that, and it's kind of fun to make fun of David Brooks. Obviously, you and I do it every now and then, but his point probably is worth a greater discussion, and it's not because we're going to make fun of his taste in sandwiches.
And being shocked that people don't eat at places like that every day. Yeah. Amazing.
I've been to some pretty fancy Mexican places too.
That's true.
I mean, you got Taco Bell, you got your corner taco place or a burrito place or something like that. But there are some really nice high-end Mexican places. And you know what, Greg? I can't pronounce the stuff on the menu there either.
That's because you're down with the folks.
Yeah, I don't need to be able to pronounce it in order to enjoy eating it.
I can point. Jim, have a good one. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Don't forget to visit our friends at Dollar Shave Club. Get $15 in value for only $5. That's the razor and the shave butter and all the good stuff. DollarShaveClub.com/Martini. Join us on Thursday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.
What if a nursing college cared for its students the same way nurses cared for their patients? What if the focus was on keeping students in, not weeding them out? What would happen? Something extraordinary. Join us, and together we can make a difference. Chamberlain University College of Nursing. Extraordinary care, extraordinary nurses.
Attend Chamberlain's Las Vegas campus open house July 13th at 4 p.m. For gainful employment information, visit chamberlain.edu/GEBSN.
What if a nursing college cared for its students the same way nurses cared for their patients? What if the focus was on keeping students in, not weeding them out? What would happen? Something extraordinary. Join us, and together we can make a difference. Chamberlain University College of Nursing. Extraordinary care, extraordinary nurses.
Attend Chamberlain's Las Vegas campus open house July 13th at 4 p.m. For gainful employment information, visit chamberlain.edu/GEBSN.